Well, guys, it's time for our college basketball update. Even though we're looking at a hockey file right now, we're going to quickly talk about hockey, quickly talk about basketball, and then we're going to not so quickly talk about college basketball because guess what? There are lines. There are games on Tuesday, and there are lines. No, actually, they're not lines. They're just spreads. There aren't lines yet, but there are spreads, and I brought them into the file and we're going to have some fun because I had not previously been able to have anything to compare it to. So I hand typed in a bunch of games, but we'll talk about this after I go over some other stuff. What is this? College basketball is kind of officially starting to compare to some actual lines that are out there. Super exciting. If you want to subscribe to the college basketball algorithm for November, that's every day you get an email from me with this file with compounding data. This thing's unbelievable. The price of it is like currently $170 for $170 right now. It goes up $5 every time I sell a subscription, and the price is going to start getting expensive. And I guess I'm going to have to tell people that normally, whatever, when you pay me, all the time because you're one of the people who buys a lot of the algorithms from me, I'll give you a discount from what you see on there. But if you have not purchased anything from me before and you want college basketball because you understand it is worth so much more than what it's going for right now, the college basketball algorithm, if you, I mean, I would not bet on college basketball without it. So you can value it however much you want to value it for however much you bet. I don't bet all that much, but it's kind of silly not for me not to bet a lot because this thing wins so much and home teams win so much. It's funny. Anyway, we'll get to that later. Quickly, something else I want to talk about. Hockey first. So I've got a Google sheet for NHL and NBA, two sports that I'm also monitoring. And I so there's no email list every day anymore because it gets too redundant, or not, I shouldn't say redundant. It gets way too time consuming to make sure that I get all of the confirmed goaltenders and stuff in here. Like there are people that are combing over Twitter looking to see if somebody accidentally leaked out who's starting tonight. Like some goalie who's super excited starts to be like, "Hey, my girlfriend's coming to the game tonight. I'm going to play," even though he's not supposed to release it, but he got the word from the coach, which is why some coaches keep it really close to the vest. Well, when there are changes, this goes from expected to confirmed. RotoWire's excellent about keeping the proper status. And once it's confirmed, it usually doesn't change. Most of the time it's pretty good. Well, before in the video I did earlier today, it was supposed to be Sorokin, not Varlamov. They changed it. And the goaltending matchup changed and it went in favor of Billy Husso. And then you end up having Detroit actually wins this game. So what is interesting is making sure you get this accurate and following along at home, having a copy of the file, updating it, understanding the differences, because it really helps when it comes to wagering. And a lot of the algorithm is set to tell you the type of outcome that's supposed to happen based on the components that you put into it. If you get the components wrong, the algorithm won't work right as much. And sometimes I don't put enough effort into making sure everything is completely super duper accurate because I'm like, I mean, I got a life to live. I can't do this all day long. But you can, especially in one sport, if you're really paying attention, like you can make one of these things your baby. And a lot of people will ask me for copies of stuff all the time because they see me doing work on it. And the answer is you have them. I usually just send them on, but I appreciate being compensated extra for that because it's just the work I'm putting into it every day. A lot of people just think that I'm doing it and then they want copies of stuff, and I get it, and I'll send them usually. But also, like, think about how much effort I'm putting into it. Just because I don't ask you for money doesn't mean I'm not expecting to get something. But that way. So anyway, that's hockey, and those that asked about NBA next. So I just updated the injury report just now and everything changed. I haven't even looked at this. I updated the Google sheet. This ties into what I'm going to talk about in NCAA in a minute, but I changed the point projections. I changed this thing right here. There's this projected margin of victory number. This thing does not exist in the NCAA one. We don't have that here. Although I think we do have, do we? Wait a minute. We have a spread cover plus number, but we don't have the projected margin of victory showing anywhere. And it's certainly not sorting by that. It sorts by margin. Okay. Margin's pretty awesome, but we're gonna find out after I get injuries in here properly, which is gonna matter. We're gonna redo the same thing we did in NBA, assuming it works, and it worked. It worked last night. Looking back at it, we'll see if it works tonight. This makes a lot of sense though, which is we're including health numbers in the projected score. Margin all of a sudden does not look perfectly green to red top down as much like it does in the NCAA file, for example. See this margin here and the color of it? The margin, oops, what did I just do? The margin right here, you see 67.7%. That means it really thinks Kansas is going to beat Omaha in RotoWire's version. What about my version? I typed in a bunch of games, and mine said it was Baylor over Mississippi Valley State. And that game may not have a line yet, I think. But the Kansas Omaha game is right here. We say that the score of this game is 93-55, where we're not including health. RotoWire said that game is has a 31-point spread on there, right? And so our spread cover number here is only 7, but this is the same projection, right? 93-55. I don't know why I can't see them both. Maybe we can see them both. Yeah, they go into a weird order. Kansas, and then Kansas again, or no? How does this work? I don't know. It's confusing what I did because I brought in, these are the all projections I did, and now here's the ones that have odds, or the ones called RotoWire. We'll get back to that in a second because I want to go back to NBA and talk about today, because these games are all starting to happen. I think they're all late games today, 5 o'clock, and it's 5 o'clock right now. Well, there we go. Better get some answers. Okay, so that's why I brought in the injury report just now. And now here you go. And I didn't have to yap about it for so long. We can just look at what it says. It's trying to tell you whether or not the team's going to cover the spread. If the spread cover number is positive, then it thinks it will, and it thinks this will by a lot, and this thinks this won't. And that means that it thinks that New Orleans is going to beat Atlanta at an underdog line, only an 8% margin, but the points say yes because health and injuries. Okay, so keep in mind we'd have a different look if we were sorting this by something else. We were sorting it originally like we were sorting it by margin, which is here. It looks like this, and New Orleans is down here, right? But we're not doing that anymore. We're doing this by projected margin of victory because I think it's better. So it's this look. So that has them as the third pick of the day, even though the margin's only 8. So it's going against me saying, oh, the margin's not above 10%, Ken, but the points and the injuries say yes. Okay. We got a terrible line on Phoenix and Portland, and Portland's really injured. And so it says they really even cover the 11 points, but I don't mess with any of this minus ton of points. It's just that you only can know if a team is going to try to win. They're not necessarily going to try to win by a dozen points. So betting anybody minus a ton of points is you're going to win some and lose some, and you're not going to have consistent success. I've never seen anybody or any team do that, really, other than Gonzaga trying to do it in college basketball, win by 50 every game sometimes. But other than that, I haven't seen any team actually kind of do it that way. Next, Minnesota and Houston. Line not good. Still says they cover the thing, but the line's also terrible. So I can't bet either of those games. Does say New Orleans at plus 102 wins the game. So that is looking like one of the picks of the day, right? So I'll put that on the list because I had not made a bet on NBA today. I was waiting till this injury report was current because it totally matters. Denver's someone injured, says that they do not cover this 11.5 against San Antonio. San Antonio also injured, but according to our new health, whatever, San Antonio loses by 7. And no, yes. No, they lose by, what is this? 8? Is this working right? Projected margin of victory for Denver is 8. They have to cover 11.5, 3 spread cover. Yeah, that's right. So, but that's still not very close. I think this is a no bet game here. Even though even though the margin is less than 10%, you'd think, oh, maybe I'll take San Jose plus a bunch of points. San Antonio, sorry. I'll take San Antonio, bunch of points. Well, it's still kind of too wishy-washy. I'm going to say no on that, but Pelicans to win so far. Next, Hornets and Nets. Injuries galore. 10-point victory somehow for Charlotte in their underdog. Uh, well, I mean, Brooklyn did something different and upset the algorithm yesterday with the beating the Wizards, and it's because Kyrie's not playing now. If you remove him from the total entirely, I'm gonna do that. Watch this. I think this will. How do we do this? I almost want to remove him from the actual total, right? Like so, you can do it this way, which is you remove him here and then you go into the players tab. I'll show you why I'm doing this because I want to have him not as part of the denominator because the season is so early that I want to just get him out of here completely. And if we do that and we refresh everything, what happens? Oh, no, we got to refresh the injury pivot table too. Hold on. You always have to refresh this pivot table and the injury pivot. And it's good we're going over some tutorials. Yeah, he's just gone now. Now we're going to refresh here. And they moved. See how they moved all the way down here? So, so the point of what I just did by removing Kyrie Irving from the team of the Nets, which I think is probably a good idea if he's not going to apologize for being a Hitler sympathizer. If that's going to be the case, then here's what happens. The denominator and the source for the entire team changes and it makes them stronger health wise. Ha 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 ha. There you go. It makes them stronger health wise to remove him from the equation completely. And it changes the dynamic of this game. And it makes Charlotte barely win this game. Barely. And the margin's 11, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to leave that, and we'll talk about how to account for that because it's really important as I transition over to yeah. So the only pick of the day is New Orleans. Sorry, in summary, Sacramento, and that's a low margin, but Milwaukee and Oakland. No, yeah, there's no other pick except the Pelicans for some reason. It's in Atlanta. So that is the only basketball pick of the day after all that. All right, now let's go over to college basketball and really get busy. I know we're really getting busy. So check this out. So this file is intense and it's set on last year right now. Meaning this games that are starting on Tuesday are in here, but all the school stats and standings are all from last year. And all the players are last year's player stats right here. So this is a full year of player stats for guys, some seniors and stuff that are not even there anymore. So this is totally cannot be perfectly accurate yet. Doesn't even have rosters correct yet. That's okay for game one. It's impossible for me to try to set up all these teams. It's a fool's errand to try to even do it or care for game one. So we're just going to simulate with last year's stats and assume that all the teams are the same composition and strength as last year. We're doing a last year matchup, but we do have a current injury report. And I mean, it's going to do what it'll do based on last year, basically. So that's fine for game one. That's why I don't mind sharing all the predictions and stuff for game one because it's still last year. I haven't done any work to bring in current year stats because once you bring in current year stats, a bunch of stuff has to change. And we're going to run into the same issue I just talked about, which is people who are injured or people who leave school or people who don't play anymore. Sometimes they get redshirted, they get traded, all kinds of traded. They transfer to a different school, all kinds of stuff. And we have game time decisions versus non-game time decisions that are out. So I got to redo the whole pivot table here to look like the pivot table here with these positions like this. Okay. And I also need to do a formula related to point projections as we have done here with this health score in NBA. We can do the same thing in college basketball. So I like it that NBA is a really nice dry run for doing this because I'll probably be able to apply the formulas pretty similarly and they'll probably work. All right, so we'll add some stuff. But as for right now, let's have fun with the first day's projections because I'm super excited to see this because I thought, well, if the odds makers are going to use the algorithm or see my video related to this, then what will happen is the ones that are coming in from RotoWire, which is what we're looking at today, they don't have money lines yet. So there's no money lines yet. and there's no final margin of victory yet. But there's a projected score based on last season, and then there's a spread, and there's a spread cover. So basically, if all these spread cover numbers were 0, okay, meaning that we predicted Kansas to beat Omaha by exactly 31 points, because that's what the odds makers made the spread to be, and this was 0 here, then the odds makers in the algorithm would be in complete, uniform parity, basically, almost, at least when it came to spread of the game. And so what do we have here? Well, apparently the odds makers think that the algorithm is a little bit overestimating points. As you can see that all these games are like at 5, 6, or 7, except for this one, which is weird. Tennessee and Tennessee Tech. Tennessee Tech, we think that Tennessee Tech gives them a better game, and there's all these teams are at home. So how cool is this, right? We're doing an analysis of the difference between the algorithm and the odds makers on day one with extremely limited stats, where we're also using last year, not even this year. So some big seniors may have left, and all kinds of reasons actually why odds could be different. And we're going to learn as we go through the rest of the season. So is there anything really weird or cool? Because we have like 63 games in here already. We think UNC Wilmington can do better against UNC, according to last year. But nothing like, where are their underdogs? We're going to start to see where they're underdogs when what? When there's going to be a positive number way down here at the bottom, and if we have any away teams potentially, because away teams are oftentimes underdogs. Now, also, I don't know if all these games are on location or whether these are tournament games that are neutral site locations. Need to answer that because it matters for the home bump, which we're doing nothing with right now. The home bump is a really cool thing where you get to bump every home team by a certain percentage. Watch this. Let's bump every home team by 5% and watch what changes. Everything changes. And home teams move up and away teams move down. And there is about a 5% between 5 and 20. It's funny. It's between 5 and 20 every day. It's amazing. But about 5 is usually okay. It's about 5 is what to do, and you'll get more home teams. So like, for example, in this list of 63 games, we're favoring 53 of those games are home teams, and 10 of them are away teams. These are the away teams that the algorithm favors. So here's a great test. Away teams in college basketball just have difficulty winning for whatever reason. So anytime the algorithm picks an away team, it's pretty good to check about whether or not it won, because if they win, they probably pay really good. So let's see what it likes. It likes Seattle over UC San Diego, which had a bad team last year, I think, if I remember correctly. Likes them, gives them a 16% margin. So I predict of these 10 games, I bet you probably 7 or 8 of them will be underdogs. We'll find out. But there's also strength of schedule differentials that matter here. You want this number to be a green number, a positive number. It means that last season, this team played better teams than this team. Like Kent State had a better schedule at only -279 than Northern Kentucky's -593. So when you're looking through this list and looking at this over here, it tells you when it picks a team over here, if they also have a green number or at least a yellow number to make it even, then you're getting a nice comparison of the season's team stats versus the other season team stats. So like, this is a bad one. Like Southeast Missouri State had a terrible schedule last year, and South Florida had a good one. So even though it favors Southeast Missouri State all the way down here, barely, it doesn't really, because this strength of schedule is really, really awful. And I'm going to leave the strength of schedule from last year. I believe I'm going to leave it in here for at least a week or two, at least, because the current year strength of schedule numbers get so screwed up early on because nobody knows like who's as good as they were last year and who isn't. But last year's actually a better guide at kind of having some sanity about strength of schedules of teams. So even though our predictions will involve other stuff, I think I'm going to leave. Yeah, I'll do that by leaving the strength of schedule number over here from a different thing. I think I don't know. I got to think about it. There's a lot to do here. Anyway, point is, this is awesome. So if you want to get a handle on this and get this for November, after November 30th, I'm not doing it every day, even though I'm probably going to have to be doing it every day, right? I'll still sell 1-day copies, but you have to learn how to update it yourself. And I will be doing videos on that and explaining the process, but stuff always changes. So it's how much you want to engage and learn about what's going on, or get somebody to learn what's going on in the file. Because it is just a system of updating certain things and refreshing. But I always add to it, always add formulas, always make it better. I'm going to add a health projected score in here, right? So the scores are going to change because I'm going to do what we did with NBA. Like a lot of stuff's going to keep changing. I will get that done before the end of November. So as I do send emails every day throughout November, which is why that subscription is more expensive, it keeps going up because it's a lot of work. When you do that, you'll get a nice version of it by November 30th that you can be at least comfortable with updating it. It's I would say these things are like they're like a gaming console almost. You can keep updating them and updating them and updating them, and you'll get a better version in the future generally. But there's nothing wrong with using the old one because the old algorithm worked too. So that's how I'd look at it for people who always ask me about getting copies of stuff and why I like doing this. I like doing this daily email subscription early on in the season when I'm preparing all these and getting them to work, because that's when they require a lot of time. After that, I want to focus on something else and completely doing something else. So that's a good way to handle this, is continually with the seasons as they change to cycle with different sports. So that's what we'll be doing. And if you want to get your hands on this, this is pretty exciting for college basketball. We've got like 3 days to go. And then my next video will be about Sunday's football for some reason. We're going to pretend to simulate all the football games somehow after I run the nearest, most recent injury report. All right. So good luck, everybody. May all your picks be winning. Pick of the day for NBA is the Pelicans, and anything in hockey, it's still Boston, I believe, which starts at 7. Is still basically the number one because of the line. I think they're still plus 115. Or they went down to plus 106. So still, it's almost even money. All right. Good luck, everybody. May all your picks be winning.